What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2. Wherever you're watching today, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. As always, we have some great guests for you guys today. Ken Kal will join us shortly for the mailbag. We've got interviews with MLB draft pick and Detroit native Werner Blakely Jr. for a really good interview with Carly, Cody Hagen of The Athletic, Ted Kulfin of the Detroit News, and Tigers manager AJ Hinch is joining Art for the headliner later today. So a lot of fun in today's show, and we've got some news to talk about. Art, it's going to be a really busy show today. Are you ready? I know you were fueling up right before we got on. You had your yogurt. You got to be ready to go.
I am. I'm all set. I didn't even dry shampoo my hair today. That's how involved I was in the show. I forgot to do it. Doesn't look too bad. I'm ready to go. It's, I'm all about the holidays, as you can tell. And it looks like we're going to have some hockey finally. Big doings in Major League Baseball with the winter meetings, Rule 5 draft, you name it. I'm ready. World Junior Championships coming up on Christmas. I mean, does it get any better than this, Daniela? Does it? No, it does not.
It doesn't. And Art, you previewed it nicely. Let's get into our big three for today because there is a lot of great news to talk about. We'll start with that NHL update. Thanks to our friends at Chevy. And Pierre LeBrun has been all over it, giving us as many updates as he can actually give us. So now we are pegging a January 13th start. The NHL and NHLPA is still talking. Things have not become official yet. Nothing has been given to the Board of Governors or the executives in the Players Association. So still some things to be done. Let's just put it that way. There's still some things to work out, some protocols to take care of, but we are making progress. And like you said, Art, it looks like we might have some hockey come mid-January.
Right. I think the most important thing to remember about this is that all the financial things that they were going through, I think both sides came to their senses and realized if we're going to start nitpicking about money in an economic crisis and in the middle of a pandemic, we're not going to look good. So what they agreed to back, the CBA that they agreed to and signed, I guess, in principle, I don't know if that's the proper term or not, that's going to hold up. All the financial things, that's over and done with. They really didn't come to any kind of resolution or what either side wanted. The owners came one way, the players came another. Then they decided, you know what? Boom, let's just leave it as it is, which is great, which means there's probably going to be hockey. Now, of course, the elephant in the room is COVID-19. What are they going to do? Because I think the only sticking point at this point would be where the Board of Governors go, because there's going to be a realignment. If there's realignment, 2/3 of the Board of Governors have to vote yes on the realignment. Now, some owners just aren't happy with this financial situation. I'm sure they're probably going to get 2/3, but, there's still some sticking points here. And, of course, the pandemic could wipe it all out again, as we saw last March. So, I'm hopeful. It's supposedly going to be a 56-game schedule. Training camps could start as early as January 1st, which means that the week between Christmas and New Year's, we're working because the Red Wings are probably going to be on the ice back then. Hey, I'm fine with it. I am. I'm just saying that the Red Wings are probably going to get a week before. So, let's face it, the guys are going to be celebrating the holidays and good social distancing Christmas Day. And then on December 26th, they're hitting the ice, as a team, finally. As a real practice. I know they're all over the globe right now playing, but I think it's good news. And again, I really think that the league realized, haggling over, money at this point, probably let's just leave it as it is. And I'm surprised by that. I'm really surprised by this because when it comes to labor negotiations, sometimes this league has odd decisions, but that's great news. Looking forward to hockey. I'm happy. 56-game schedule. That's pretty good. The Tigers played 58 games, and so, I think that's enough games to, have a legitimate champion and get a playoff system going. Remember, the drop dead date is May 20th. They have to be done with the Stanley Cup final by May, or actually May 20th is when they have to start it, because July 20th or 21st is the Olympics, which NBC has, and they're definitely not going to, hockey's not going to go up against that. Nobody is. Nobody's going to go up against the Olympics, especially since it's been canceled for a year. So great news on the hockey front. Really looking forward to it.
It is great news, Art. And again, another thing to remember, Gary Bettman did place a focus on, of course, getting back on the ice this season, but he wants everything to be as normal as it can in the 21-22 season. So safety first for all of the players, but we're looking forward to it. I'm excited. And Art, for the record, if it means the Red Wings are on the ice, I am more than happy to work the week between Christmas and New Year. Okay. I just got to let you know that.
Well, if we're allowed in, because right now they're deciding all the protocols. Yeah, no, that'll be good. I mean, yeah, I'll even wear a Santa suit on the first day, you know?
And, I'm do that. Write that down. Write that down.
I'm under the assumption, and I know the crew's going to love this, but I can't see how we can't do any WOW shows that week, because if the Red Wings are practicing for the first time in almost a year, I don't know. That's pretty big news. So
give the people what they want. The word on Woodward.
Yeah, really. Hey, I know everybody's been going 24/7, 365 lately, but hey, the Red Wings are back, baby. Christmas week, we're there for them.
All right, Art. Let's move on to our second topic of today's Big Three. We're going to talk Major League Baseball and their winter meetings, which are happening this week, Art. This is typically the biggest week of the season, the busiest week. Managers making decisions, players being signed, trades being made. The Rule 5 draft is also this week, which is still happening on Thursday. But what are you really expecting to come out of this week, since things will be so different because of COVID-19? All of the general managers will be working virtually.
I know we're going to talk to Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic here in a while, and it'd be interesting to get his take on it. I also touched upon this with AJ Hinch. I'm not so sure, because it's so uncertain. Usually there's big deals, there's big trades, and it's almost a domino effect. Once one team starts doing something, I mean, at this point, the Tigers traded for Miggy during the winter meetings. They traded for Max Scherzer during the winter meetings. I think they traded Brad Ausmus twice during the winter meetings. I mean, so things do happen, but who knows? I think perhaps maybe the biggest thing that might happen this year, because the Tigers cleared a spot on their 40-man roster when they removed Anthony Castro, the pitcher from there, who was claimed by waivers by Toronto, is that the Rule 5 draft is Thursday. It's like the last day of the winter meetings. And so if the Tigers cleared a spot and they have the third overall pick in the Rule 5 draft, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be adding a player to that 40-man roster, just like Victor Reyes as they did, a couple of years ago, and then Ronnie Garcia last year, who they nabbed from the Yankees. So I'm eager to see. I mean, how many times have we said this, Daniela? We're in unknown, uncharted territory right now. Yeah. I mean, something could happen. Something big could happen. They could acquire sign a free agent. But the Rule 5 draft, maybe that's the thing that news will definitely happen Thursday, because they cleared that roster spot. I'm sure the Tigers are going to pick up somebody in Rule 5. I'm just looking forward to it. This is it's always great. It always happens right around the holiday, the Christmas period here, where baseball has these winter meetings. And, I think it's going to be exciting. I think that AJ Hinch is going to have a really big say in this, and he and Al Avila go back a long way. I think it's really coming together nicely for the Tigers right now. So I'm eager to see what they do this week, especially in that Rule 5, and which way they go. Are they going to go outfield or an infielder, perhaps a catcher? We don't know in Rule 5. The player has to stick on the Tigers team, as we know, or else they have to give him back to the team that they claimed him from. So, a lot of things happening right now on all fronts too. So, that's good. And, the Pistons are starting on Friday too. and the Lions actually won a game. So it's not too bad being a Detroit sports fan right now. I had to throw that in there for you, Danielle. I know you're real happy about that.
I'll take what we can get. I was ecstatic yesterday. It was a victory Monday for the Lions. I was happy about it, okay?
I know you were.
We will talk to Cody Stavenhagen, as you mentioned earlier, Art. We'll talk more about the winter meetings and the Tigers offseason as a whole. But for now, we're going to move on to our third and final topic of the Big Three. The World Junior Championship rosters have been released, and we saw a lot of Red Wings prospects on those rosters, Art, especially in Sweden. So we know that the World Juniors has already been impacted by COVID-19 and the fact that some players are testing positive, and the entire tournament will take place in a bubble. So really, what are you expecting to see, and what Red Wings prospects are you excited to watch?
Well, I'll tell you what. First and foremost, I think that COVID-19 has knocked out a couple of players. It's going to be played in a bubble. It begins on December 25th on Christmas Day and goes through January 5th. That's why it's the 2021 World Juniors, not the 2020. Even though it does start, it crosses over in years here. It's in Rogers Place. It's in the Edmonton bubble that we saw during the playoffs. Robert Mastrosimone, Red Wing draft pick a few years ago. Red Wings very high on him. He has had to opt out. I think all the players from BU that were on the American roster, three of them have had to for COVID-19 protocol, or they're just unavailable. The assumption is that's unfortunately what happened. And then you look at Team Sweden. There were 7 Red Wing prospects on Team Sweden. 2 of them, unfortunately, are out for COVID-19 protocol as well. William Wallander, second-round defenseman. I think we're all really looking forward to see him. And then Albin Gueve, who was going to come over and play for the Saginaw Spirits this year in the OHL. He has 2. But, let's be honest. He's starred in this tournament before. It's Lucas Rehmann, The interesting thing about Lucas Rehmann and Alexander Holtz, they're both going to play on the wing. Their center has also had COVID-19, and Holtz and Lucas Rehmann are known as the Terror Twins, but suddenly they don't have their center who they're used to playing with. So that can go one of two ways. Maybe Rehmann without a guy he's familiar with, although he's going to be playing with Holtz, perhaps. He doesn't have a great tournament where he has excelled. I mean, remember, every time Lucas Rehmann has been in with his peer group, has competed against his peer group, he's a superstar. He's by far, if not the best player, one of the best players on the ice. But he doesn't have his center, but he's still playing with Holt. So the Terror Twins are still together, but they don't have their center. I mean, that's going to be interesting. And then, I want to see Theodor Niederbach. That's the guy that I'm really high on. Gustav Berglund, Albert Johansson, and, then the big man. I mean, literally the big man. We saw him last year in the prospects tournament is Elmer Soderblom, or Soderblom, I believe it is. There's no double L in his last name. But, I'm willing to see big Elmer. I mean, Elmer's a 6th-round draft pick. And how often I talk about players that hopefully they can get maybe catch a break on. Elmer just he accelerates, maybe. So, he's Elmer's not playing like a 6th-round draft pick, So I'm eager to see him. So, I guess I'm always root for the USA. Team USA is always in my heart, especially against those dastardly Canadians. But aside from that, Team Sweden is a team I'm really going to be paying close attention to during the World Juniors. It's a wonderful tournament. If you get the NHL Network, you're going to see every game. I think NBC Sports shows all of Team USA's game. So, and it's good quality hockey. These are the future. These are the stars of tomorrow. So I'm glad they're able to do it. Edmonton, the bubble has proven to be a safe environment. It worked during the playoffs. So hopefully it'll go on without a hitch.
Art, we remember last year we had 2 Red Wings prospects on that championship team in Joe Veleno and Jared McIsaac. So it was fun to watch them go through that. And I'm excited this year, Team Sweden, like you said, a lot of Red Wings prospects on there, and Lucas Rehmann being probably the most exciting. So I will definitely be tuning into some of those games. And one other question I want to ask you real quick, Art, is, forgive me, I actually don't know exactly what the protocols will be for the bubble, but this tournament is a great event for scouts and management to see players that are going to be available in the 2021 draft.
Well, you've heard me talk about the summer showcase, which has been in Plymouth for a couple of years, like 2 of the last 4 years. That's when Team USA, they have 2 teams, Team Canada has 2 teams, and then Finland and Sweden. That's their pre-World Junior roster, and they all come in there. That's a who's who of the NHL. Everybody is there. General managers, coaches, Mike Babcock held court one day. Steve was there from Tampa and, as a Red Wing, and everybody in between. Well, imagine the World Juniors is even bigger. because it's more than just those 4 teams. It's all the best teams in the world, the best 8, I think 8 or 9, 10 teams in the world. Can't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, this is a huge event. This is a big event. The Canadian networks cover it like it's a Stanley Cup final, and it's gaining steam here. It's Team USA as a development program has taken off. The Americans are right up there with every team in the world. As far as player development. And so, it's great. I mean, if you miss hockey, and I think a lot of us do, and if you miss just competition, and I think a lot of us do, the World Junior Tournament this year in Edmonton in the bubble will be something that you should tune into. I don't know if you're going to be too thrilled on Christmas, but if you're social distancing, you're probably celebrating Christmas with people you've been with for 9 months now. So maybe it's, hey, I'm going to watch a little hockey, Jesus, Merry Christmas, all that stuff. We'll see you. Happy birthday, Jesus, but I'm watching hockey. You guys do whatever you want, okay? I know I'm going to see you tomorrow and for the foreseeable future. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be good.
Yeah, you see, they don't get the week between Christmas and New Year off, so I guess
no, we don't. It looks like we're not either, which is going to be great. Red Wings on the ice. I can't wait to see them. I mean, if I didn't have to social distance, I might even embrace the BT Express. It's so good to see you, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
There's a distinct possibility, though, that work's going to happen.
Well, you guys, that wraps up the big 3 for today. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the big 3. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And now, everyone, it is time to bring on our first guest of today's show for the mailbag, delivered to you by Little Caesars. And today's guest is Red Wings radio play-by-play announcer, Ken Kal. Ken, we're going to start this off with saying, I guess it's a bit of a congratulations. We've got some good news. The Red Wings play-by-play, the games will still be broadcast on 97.1 The Ticket. As of today, a new deal was signed for a multi-year extension. I always love listening to you on 97.1 The Ticket, Ken, and this includes the Tigers as well. So I'm excited. How are you feeling about it?
Oh, it's a great day. And obviously, as Art was mentioning, hockey's just around the corner, it seems. But I look at our partnership with 97.1 and the Red Wings as a great partnership that's lasted years and years and years. And it's so good that we're able to go back to 97.1 again and continue that long tradition with the great radio station and all of their affiliates around the state of Michigan. And again, it's always about consistency, I think, in all walks of life, whatever you're in. And, when fans want to listen to the Red Wing games or listen to Dan Dickerson and Jim Price call those Tiger games, they can tune in to 97.1 The Ticket. They know where to go on the dial and it's not going to move. So that's great. And again, for all the people that work at the radio station, the on-air talent, the people behind the scenes, the salespeople, management, great relationship, great partnership. And for the fans, they know where to go if they want to listen to hockey games or Tiger baseball.
Ken, before we get into our mailbag questions, I do have to bring up one thing that Art just recently told me that I didn't know about him, and I have to get your side of this to see if you remember it, that he filled in for you one time because you had to go down and do something at the end of a period, so he got to call the end of a game, and he even got to call a goal. And he was calling all of the guys by their first names instead of their last names while he was trying to call the game. Do you remember this? Because Art says he did a pretty good job, and I feel like I need to know.
I don't know if I said that, but
maybe I threw you under the bus a little.
In fact, I do remember it, and it was between periods. I think we had a promotion between the second and third period, and I had to go down on ice level and do the on-air promotion, and I had to leave with a couple minutes left in the second period, and Art took over. As a matter of fact, he called, I think it was a Brendan Shanahan goal.
It was a Shanahan goal.
And I still, somewhere in my archives, I have that call, but I listened to it. It was a great call, and I was a little worried about my job there for a minute, but Art did a really good job.
Yeah, you know what? Ken's being way too kind. Trust me.
Wasn't it something like Shanahan or Nick over to Stevie, over to Shanny. He scores.
Right. I was calling him Larry. I was calling by their first names, and then I think I even said something like the fact, and I've told this. I mean, Brendan was just putting the puck into the other end. He wanted a line change. I don't even know if it was like a real legitimate shot on goal, and so, I'm sitting there and I'm half-heartedly going, Shanahan, clears the puck or puts the puck in the, I even forget, the Nashville zone or something. And then I go, he scores just like that because it went in. I mean, it went in. It wasn't even really a legitimate shot. You know who really appreciated it more than anything and who still to this day razzes me about it is Scotty Bowman. He goes, you called a game? I go, no. I go, it was far from, I go, for those of you that don't appreciate Ken Kal, you certainly did after I called like the last 2 minutes of a game and got a goal in there. I mean, woo. Yep, that's.
You know what? I was down by the Zamboni gate waiting for the period to end, and I know the Red Wings scored the goal because on my way down, I heard the crowd cheering, and I'm thinking to myself, darn, Art just called a goal. I wonder how it was.
Well, Ken, really? I don't want to give you any more work, but if you could ever dig that up, I would love to hear it.
No,
I have to figure out, Art, do you remember what year it was? Because I have the games archived, and if it had to be in
I thought Murph was still on the team. Do you think it was 98, maybe 97? It wasn't 97. It was maybe either 98 or well, no. It would have to be. You know what? It would have to be 2000. It'd have to be from 2000 to 2006. It would have to be in there.
You think about that and get to Ken and figure out what year that was so Ken can look for it. We're going to move on.
Probably 2002. I would imagine it was 2002.
All right. I'll have to take a look at the archive. I don't know if I go back that far, though, but okay.
All right.
Scores.
Here's your first question, Ken. This one is Nathan from Saline, and he asked, we've been looking for another move like the Stahl deal, but last week we heard the Canucks couldn't find a trade partner for Louis Eriksson. Are the Wings done making moves, or was this just a bad fit?
The thing about Louis Eriksson is he's always had a knack for scoring. And, I know we've talked on the show a lot about the Red Wings' lack of scoring over the past couple of years. He's a guy that could help out as far as goal scoring. The only problem I see with this is that I think Louis Eriksson's 34, 35 years old. And if you're going to trade somebody, are you going to trade a younger player for an older player to come in just for a year or two, if that? I don't think so. And, the only way that maybe the Red Wings would consider Louis Eriksson would be if they got a draft choice along with Louis Eriksson and the Wings didn't have to give up anything. So, that could be a possibility in that regard. But I just don't see Steve Yzerman, the way he's building this team right now, I don't see him trading for an older player and giving up a draft choice or even a younger player for Louis Eriksson. Although I will say this, he's been a pretty good goal scorer over the last several years.
Ken, I tend to agree with you, but I still do think there's a possibility for another move before the Red Wings take the ice, even though time may be running short since we'll be on the ice hopefully by mid-January. But moving on to our second question, and Art, this one is for you. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball here. Brock from Saginaw asks, reading the Players Alliance news has me wondering who is the best MLB player to come from Michigan? Ooh, this is a tough one, Art.
Well, this is definitely a tough one. There have been a lot of great ball players who have hailed from the Great Lakes state, the Wolverine state, as we know, the great state of Michigan. I immediately, when I thought about it, I thought of Derek Jeter. Now, he was born in New Jersey, but was raised in Kalamazoo, as we know, has strong Michigan ties. Most of the time when he's out in public, if he's not in a suit, he's wearing a University of Michigan t-shirt. So obviously I love the guy. And he was obviously a great ball player. I think because he played for the Yankees and, he was almost the second coming of Reggie Jackson as far as Mr. October. He got really, really big hits. He did a lot of great things, was really a clutch player. So Derek Jeter, I'm thinking, man, but, he's from Michigan. As a matter of fact, when Sports Illustrated wrote, they had, 50 states or highlighting, I don't know what, like the 100 years of SI or something. Each week they had like somebody write about their home state. a sports figure, and Derek Jeter wrote about the state of Michigan. So, so he's Michigan through and through. But then I really got to think about it. And I'm thinking the Tigers have gone back to 1901. And then I figured, of course, it's the old Fowlerville gladiator himself, the mechanical man, Charlie Gehringer. Charlie Gehringer is the best baseball player from the state of Michigan. 19 seasons as a Tiger. I mean, he just, 6 times an All-Star, 35 World Championship. We see MVP in 37, inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Career average of 320. I thought he almost had 3,000 hits, and he almost did. In 8,860 at bats, he had 2,839 hits. Home runs weren't all that big back then. Bopping, 184 home runs, but RBI, he had 1,427, 320 average. But the thing that I really find astounding, he mostly played second. I think he played a little third and a little short, but not much. But his fielding percentage was 976. 976. That's pretty damn good. He had 12,847 chances. That means balls that chances that he had to make a play on. They were hit to him. He only had, in a 19-year career, all with Detroit, only 310 errors. That's not very many when you consider over almost actually 13,000 chances. So when I look at it, the best player from the state of Michigan, and Willie the Wonder, native Detroiter, Willie's in my heart too. I mean, there's some great ball players from this state. You could go to John Smoltz. I'm just not limiting it to Tigers. I'm really not. Like I said, Jeter was a Yankee. But when it's all said and done, I really think the best overall player from this state, born in Fowlerville, lived in Michigan his whole life, started at Fowlerville High School, where I used to call games when my radio career started, of the Fowlerville Gladiators. So I'm sure they were probably still the Gladiators back then in the 20s or whenever. It's Charlie Gehringer. Charlie Gehringer by far, I think, I'm going to say the mechanical man. It's Charlie. Actually, I know we're probably running out of time because I'm just just going on and on and on, because I think, January 13th, hockey could be back. But what do you think, Kenny? I know you're a big baseball guy.
Gehringer's got to be the guy. And I love those old-time ball players. And whenever you think of Ruth and Gehrig for the Yankees, you have to look at Charlie Gehringer for Detroit. And, even later on in his life, he was a guy that went to church every day, went to Mass, I think in West Bloomfield. And I remember my brother, who was coaching the Brother Rice Warriors, and they were going for a state championship, and they were having some issues bunting. And I remember my brother went to Mass and saw Charlie Gehringer come out after Mass, and he asked him about how to lay down the bunt. So how can I help my kids bunt better? And so Charlie gave him a few pointers. They ended up winning the state championship. So I would have to agree with you. Charlie Gehringer's the guy.
All right.
So that championship goes to Charlie Gehringer, really.
Yeah,
exactly. Never missed the punt.
All right, you guys, moving on to question 3. This one, we're going back to Ken. Johnny from Monroe asks, I've heard 2 different proposals for realignment that are pretty similar except for 2 teams. Would you rather be in a division with the Lightning and Panthers or the Canes and the Caps?
This is a tough question because, if you look at things geographically, the Carolina Hurricanes have a rivalry with the Nashville Predators, and they're kind of close apart. So I don't know why one would be in another division and one would be in a different division, I guess I could say. But if it was my choosing, I guess I would love to see the Caps and the Carolina Hurricanes, just because of the fact that, the Stanley Cup champs are the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Red Wings haven't had much success against the Tampa Bay Lightning over the last several years. In fact, I think they have 1 win in their last since 2014 or something like that during the regular season. Florida's coming on, as we all know. But again, you want to measure yourself as well. The Red Wings want to play those good teams, and they want to use Tampa Bay as a measuring stick to see how well they're performing. But, personally, I like Tampa Bay. I like Florida. I like them in that division with the Detroit Red Wings. And again, if you're going with rivalries, Washington's a really good rivalry with all those teams in the East, like Philly and Pittsburgh. So I don't see how you could break them up. But if you're asking me what I would like, I guess in a perfect world, I would like to see the Caps and the Canes in the division with the Red Wings. But again, I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you
What about
think
you guys?
Steve Eisenman would enjoy playing against the Lightning? And obviously, it would be a lot more than they normally play against the Lightning if they're in the same division.
Well,
Well,
you know, the
they're kind
Lightning, that's been a good rivalry over the years. It really has been,
Yeah,
but the Red Wings have been on the other side of it. I
right.
think Steve would like to get back at John Cooper and those Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
eventually they will. Tampa's in the Atlantic Division. Red Wings play them
Right,
all the
right.
time anyway. So, to spice it up. But I don't know how this realignment's going to go. I mean, I'm looking at it this way: as long as the Chicago Blackhawks and the Red Wings and even the St. Louis Blues, because there have been a few Donnybrooks over the years between the Red Wings and the Blues. I one playoff series, I think they had like 800 minutes in penalties in one game. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it was still a lot. So I would like to see. I think the Florida teams are for some reason they love to see the league. The Florida teams are joined to Detroit's hip. I don't even know why these teams are in the Atlantic Division. I mean, granted, the Atlantic Ocean is surrounds Florida except for the Gulf of Mexico or whatever. But but my but
Point.
but then again, why are the Red Wings in the Atlantic Division? Where is the Atlantic Ocean in Michigan? I mean, but I know how you
We're
I
on
mean
the
the Great
water,
Lakes
Art. We're on
Division.
the water, the Great Lakes.
Well,
Right.
okay.
Hey, it's water. Hell, I'll bet you most of the people in Michigan don't even know it's not the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, I have no idea. But what I'm saying is, I would love to be a really Midwestern division. I would love to see Chicago and St. Louis back in it. In Detroit with that, and Columbus and those type Pittsburgh for sure. I think that would be great. I would assume Buffalo's got to be in there too. So, but I who knows? Again, I mean, I'm almost stunned that we've come this far and that hockey's actually going to happen, because sometimes I don't have the faith in the league as I should. Just look at the draft lottery. So right now, I would say I would like Washington. I would like Carolina. But somehow it's going to still be the Florida teams.
Well, like you said, Art, we play them a lot, but imagine we'd be playing them a lot more if we had to play and
No, you're right, Danielle. I mean, this is a compact, right? It's going to be a 3-game series. If that's the way they do it, Tampa comes here for 3 games. I mean, Steve's probably. I'll tell you one thing that the Lightning should do if that's the case. They should have a socially distanced dinner with Steve Yzerman and take him out to dinner, because if it wasn't for old number 19, they wouldn't be hoisting that Stanley Cup. Trust me.
Yeah, you're probably right, Art. I don't know if you'd be for that, but you're probably right. All right, you guys, let's cruise through this last mailbag question. Both of you are going to answer. Reggie from Ann Arbor asks, happy birthday, Red Berenson. That's right, it is Red Berenson's birthday. Former NHLer, legendary coach, but most of all, the original Yellow Laces. What is your favorite hockey accessory? Ken, why don't you answer this one first?
Well, first and foremost, I had an opportunity to work with Red Berenson for 11 years when I was the voice of the University of Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor. A great guy, always wanted to promote me as a broadcaster, and gave me every opportunity to do that. So happy birthday, Red. Great coach, great player, great person. Nothing but the best about Red Berenson. But I have to go with the defenseman ankle protectors. And you don't see that much in today's game, but back in the days of Bugsy Watson, it seemed like they always used those protectors to wrap around their ankles so that they could block shots. And again, with the way the skates are made nowadays, you don't really need them. Back in the old days, you really didn't have much padding around the ankles. But I really thought about this long and hard. I also like white tape. Back in the day, you only had black tape. When the white tape came in, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But I'm going to go with the ankle protectors.
Ankle protectors. All right, Art, what is your favorite accessory?
Well, I mean, there have been a lot of great accessories. When I look at accessories, I look at the whole ensemble, just not like a piece of equipment. The Cooperalls by the Flyers. I mean, that was a horrible accessory. So that obviously is not my favorite. Ken, you remember those things? They were playing like in long pants. They might as well have been playing in someone's backyard. It looked like a pickup game when the Flyers were wearing those things. I would have to say, for me, and again, I am really Detroit centric today. I have to say, Sergei Fedorov was one of the first athletes that got that big Nike contract. He was really, really promoted. He was by far one of the best players. I don't know if the whole thing with Anna Kournikova was going on, but he was kind of a top of mind player in the NHL. Besides, he was so good, but I mean, that was the reason why. But he signed that big Nike deal. Remember, Kenny? And he wore white skates. He had white skates, white Nike skates. I don't know how long he wore them or not, but the thing is that number one, white skates, everyone figures, that's figure skating, but no way. Sergei wore white skates, and I've got to say, no one was going to tell him that he couldn't. Fedorov always dressed uniquely. I'm not going to say, I know Sergei thought that he was a big fashion maven, but, he had a unique look about him, and the white skates topped it off. Sergei was real interesting. First time I ever had him on the Ice Time show, I go, you really going to call me? Are you really going to do this, Sergei? He said, yeah. So like at 7:20 or whenever, we get the call, producer tells me, yeah, Fedorov's there. And so I go, hey, Sergey, how's it going? He goes, well, Art, I am enjoying a 7-course meal. I am in between courses 3 and 4. So I timed it perfectly. I thought I would give you a call. And I'm thinking, wow, 7-course meal. 7-course meal. What is that? Like salad, soup? You got to plan out your main dish, and is the 7th thing dessert. But, obviously I love Sergei. I always have. But Sergei's white skates, just a very unique, interesting, somewhat misunderstood superstar here for the Red Wings for many, many years. But I would say Sergei's white skates.
And, of course, the California Golden Seals. They were the first team to wear white skates under Charlie Finley.
You know what? I went to Olympia one time to see the Golden Seals play the Red Wings. Remember Carol Vadnais? He had the big mustache and the big flaming hair. He just passed away maybe a year or so ago. God rest his soul. But I can remember him taking that puck in those white skates and those kind of greenish, goldish uniforms and, just skating down ice, and his hair would just be flying. And then he had that big mustache, and I would just be sitting there. And I'm a big Red Wing fan, obviously. I go, man, that guy is the coolest. That is the coolest hockey player I ever saw, just because of the whole ensemble and his hair just flying in the breeze as he skated down ice. Good times, good memories.
I wonder, could missing teeth be considered an accessory? I don't know if you'd want to say that's an accessory. I was
maybe
thinking about
false
it.
Teeth.
Yeah,
maybe
just the players that take their false teeth out for the game.
You can have like your team's logo. If you're missing your middle teeth, just smile and there'd be your team's logo there. The wing wheel would be a good one too. I think it's like would look good over 2 teeth.
Yeah,
it would fit.
You try to convince Tyler Bertuzzi that he needs a winged wheel.
That's the guy I was actually thinking of. Your man, Tyler.
Yeah, he'll need it to eat his Little Caesars hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. Big thank you to Ken Kal for joining us. It's always great to have him on the Mailbag. We've still got some great interviews coming up for you guys, including Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic to talk about the MLB offseason and what's going on at the winter meetings right now. Ted Kulfin will join us from the Detroit News to talk a little bit of Red Wings hockey. And later in the show for the headliner, Art sits down one-on-one with Tigers' new manager, AJ Hinch. So that will be really exciting. But before all of that, you guys, we are going to catch up with Carly.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm very pleased to be joined by Detroit native Werner Blakely Jr. How's it going, Werner? Thanks for joining me.
What's going on, Carly? Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you being on. First things first, let's talk about this crazy year you've had. A crazy good year. You were drafted by the Los
Yes.
Angeles Angels this year out of Detroit Edison Public School. That is incredible. Congratulations. We're all very proud of you. What was that moment like?
Man, it was everything that, you dream of as a kid. You work hard for like these situations right here. The goal is to obviously to play professional baseball, and June 12th was the day that it came true. So I'm very happy, and now just trying to get ready to possibly play in the big leagues one day. So that's the next goal.
And although it wasn't for the Detroit Tigers, you're still rooted here in Detroit, and you were honored by the Tigers this past season during the passing of the bat ceremony as part of Negro Leagues weekend. Another unforgettable moment for you, I'm sure. Something else that happened in 2020 that was amazing for you as a high school kid.
Yes, so that ceremony was huge. I know a lot of other players that have gotten that award, and actually, my assistant coach at my school, Mark Brown Jr., actually received the same award. So to be, in the category of those awesome guys that won that award was great, and I thank the Tigers for thinking of me for getting that award, and I'm just happy that it was able to play out the way it was. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get on the field and go to the game, but it is what it is, and I think the Tigers did a great job with countering that and still being able to give me the accomplishment goal.
Beautiful. And as a proud native Detroiter, you'll be participating in the Players Alliance Funds this week here in
Yes.
Michigan, including the event at the Detroit Palace Corner Ballpark this Friday. What made you want to get involved?
Players Alliance has a lot of similar missions that I plan to have. Soon I'm going to start my own nonprofit organization, and they have the same missions and goals that I'm going to incorporate in my nonprofit. So being able to start with something like that really helps me to put a pinpoint on what things I want to focus on. But the biggest thing is my family and I were huge believers in giving back to the community. I was the same kid going to camp just trying to get my name out there. So now it's my turn to start giving back and giving those kids the outlet that I never had. So that's the biggest reason why the Players Alliance is really helped.
Werner, that's beautiful. And you also played in Detroit Pal Leagues growing up, correct?
Yeah,
Including
I
the
did.
RBI, the Reviving Baseball and Intercities program run by Pal and Major League Baseball. So this is a
Yes.
bit of a full circle moment for you here. Why did you feel the need to get involved in Detroit Pal originally when you were younger?
Detroit Pal has been a huge staple in our community. I remember I actually first started playing Detroit Pal. I ran track when I was around 10 years old. So that's when I first got introduced to Detroit Pal. And ever since then, they've been a great, staple in our community, giving us great mentors. The police, firefighters have been able to come out and, talk to us. So it's been great meeting some of the people who help uplift our community. But Detroit Pal has been, everything but great. Mark Brown, who's the coach of my high school, was the one that introduced me to RBI. And ever since then, it's been, like a whirlwind, taking off every single year. So definitely fortunate for Detroit Pal, and definitely have to do my duties to give back.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully, and I'm sure you will, inspire someone maybe in that program, especially this Friday when you're helping the kids out there. But thank you so much for
Most
joining me
definitely.
today on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Junior. Although you're playing for the Angels, we're still rooting for you. We really are. And I can't wait to see the amazing things you'll do also with your nonprofit.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again. And back to you, Daniela.
Thank you, Carly. What an amazing story already for somebody who is so young. And you guys can even get involved in helping the Players Alliance. Families in need and in the Flint and Detroit communities are invited to join the Players Alliance Pull-Up Neighbor Mobile Tour on Friday, December 11th. That's this Friday in Flint at the Sylvester Broom Empowerment Village from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and in Detroit at the Corner Ballpark from 2:30 to 4 p.m. Families will receive food baskets, PPE, and gifts from the Detroit Tigers. For more information, visit theplayersalliance.com. And now we're going to bring Carly back to join us for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. And unfortunately for me, today we are going back to Two Truths and a Lie. Art holds all of the answers, and you guys watching, you know my history with trivia and guessing and not looking forward to it. But Art, take it away.
Well, welcome back, Danielle and Carly, to a game where a legend was born. That legend being Carly Johnston, and where Daniela had her degree from Michigan State revoked.
I'm ready to go today.
So here we go. In honor of the trade deadline, where we know a lot of trades happen, a lot of big trades. I talked about it earlier. Miggy was traded for by the Tigers at the trade deadline, Max Scherzer. But what we're going to do today is strange Tiger trades. 2 of these trades happened. 1 of them did not. So I'm going to tell you what the 3 supposed trades were. 2 happened. 1 did not. You have to tell me which one is false, obviously, and then the ones that are true are true. So you don't have to say that. So you just have to say which ones are, or which one is
Thanks
false.
for explaining there.
It's been a while. It's been a while for me too. You know what I mean?
Before.
Plus, I have this weird cat on my sweater. It's just like making me itch. Thing keeps scratching. Ugh. Okay. Trade number 1. The Tigers once traded a player and had him back later as the player to be named later. Okay, let me put that. Let me rephrase that in English. The Tigers once traded a player and sent him back as back later as a player to be named later. Like I said, the crew has been working their tails off. So you know what I mean. We might have a few. Now I'm a little apprehensive to read this stuff off the screen. I might have to just go with my notes. Okay. Secondly, the first one, the Tigers once traded a player and sent him back later as a player to be named later. There we go. Thank you. The Tigers traded $100 and a bag of balls for a player, and Tigers broadcaster Ernie Harwell was once traded for a player. There are your 2 truths and a lie. Which of the following is a lie?
Wait, Carly, are you going 1, 2, 3 or ABC?
I was gonna do ABC, but
Okay,
I don't even know
That's good.
what the heck.
Do you want me to repeat these again, or are you going to, or do you think you have them down?
You're good, Art. You're good. This is just like eeny, meeny, miny, moe for me. Hold on, I gotta fill this in because I didn't have a Sharpie, so I gotta make sure I fill it in. So you can read it. Hold on.
That's the theme. That's the Jeopardy thing.
Yeah, I know what the theme song is, but the way you're singing it is so odd.
Well, they have they do it first. They do doo doo doo, and then they have that
now we can go.
like a horn. Okay, ready?
I don't know why this is just ridiculous.
All right. Out of these strange Tiger trades, 2 of them were true. 1 of them is a lie. Which one's the lie? A and B. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Carly, you are wrong. Daniela, you are correct.
I'm right.
The Tigers once traded a player and had him back and sent him back later as a player to be named later. I kind of like that. Actually.
Yeah, that's why I picked it, because I didn't get it. I was like, this makes no sense.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's it. The Tigers once traded a player and sent him back later as a player to be named later. So you know how when they acquire a player, it's like they acquired so-and-so for a player to be named later. So what they did was they traded for the guy, what that exactly means, and then when it came back to name the player to be named later, it was almost like they had him on loan. They sent him back. That never happened. It happened actually kind of a couple of times where the Tigers sent the player back in a trade twice, but Dickie Knowles from the Cubs, they traded for him. They couldn't decide on a player, so they sent him back to the Cubs. And then John McDonald from Toronto, they couldn't decide on a player, so they sent him back. But he wasn't the player to be named later. The trades were kind of, they were official trades between the 2 teams. The Tigers did trade $100 and a bag of balls for a player in 1983. And I don't remember this, but pitcher Keith Comstock was somebody that they wanted. Yeah, well, they wanted him. But they were, maybe it was a waiver price. I don't know, $100. They had to pick him up. But the team that they were dealing with would not deal with him. So the Tigers had to sweeten the deal. They threw in $100 and a bag of balls, and Keith Comstock was traded to the Tigers. And then Tiger broadcaster Ernie Harwell was traded for a player. This is, I believe, I don't know what team he was working for at the time. I don't think it was the Baltimore Orioles or not. But in 1948, Red Barber, the legendary broadcaster for the Brooklyn Dodgers, had a few health issues, and they really needed to get a broadcaster in there, and they wanted a good quality one. Back then in 48, Ernie was up and coming. So what happened is that Cliff Dapper, who was a catcher for the Dodgers, was traded for Ernie Harwell. He was a backup to Mickey Owen, who was an all-star catcher for the Dodgers, so they could afford to get him. So Cliff Dapper went to, maybe it was Baltimore. I've got that in my head, but I should have double-checked that, actually. So he was traded. Ernie then became the broadcaster for the Brooklyn Dodgers. It's the only time in Major League Baseball history that a broadcaster was traded for a player. And, how appropriate is it the legendary Ernie Harwell, who we all know and love very much, here in Detroit. So congratulations to you, Daniela. And Carly, I have to admit, Carly, I'm a little disappointed. I'm just a little disappointed, what?
I know.
Look,
I thought you'd throw a curveball. That's why I picked B. It seemed too obvious.
100 bag of balls, there'd be a lot of curves in there. But I'll tell you what, Carly, you look $100 in a bag of balls. This segment always kind of blows up. It's really fun. I mean, that's what I really enjoy about it. But I will say that, Carly, next time we do this, which may never be again, but the next time we do it, you're going to have to get back that you saw that Daniela was patting herself on the back.
I know. Danielle's going to need to pat herself. Danielle is right.
Can we trade Art Ragnar for something? If Ernie Harwell
trade me for $1 million. Do I get the $1 million?
Who gets the million?
We'll split it.
Trade me as long as somehow I get $1 million in the deal. I'm fine with it.
I'm just kidding. I would never trade you, Art.
Oh, what do we get?
Well, you'd get a new host. Maybe Daniel Norris. He did such a Daniel Norris. He should if I ever get vacation time, which I don't, but if I ever get vacation time, Daniel Norris should be the the guy who fills in for him, because he did such a great acting job on that Tiger video we saw. I mean, he was perfect. You got this for me for Christmas? It was excellent. It was definitely excellent. If you had to
give something that's propped up on your cat castle, what would you give me?
Something off the cat castle?
Off the cat castle.
Nothing, never.
Well, I've got my Frank Sinatra album, Singing Christmas. I would give you the Black Globe, because every house should have a globe behind me.
I just put one up. You can't really see it, but it's right there. That's the top of it. Really? My chair.
Do you have a globe, Carly?
I do. It's pretty mini, but it's black. But I have a globe.
All right. See the hockey stick in the corner? That's Jamie Pusher's hockey stick. For some reason, after a practice, he just gave it to me, and I couldn't say no. It's like, Jamie, I don't really want this. So I took it. And so I will let you, on the odd days of the week, have Jamie Pusher's hockey stick. I can't give it away completely. But,
I'll take it.
But, okay, there you go.
That's
it's not
really
actually on the
kind,
cat either.
That's kind, yes. On that moment of kindness, we will wrap up Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. For the record, I would never trade Art Ragnar, not even for $1 million. maybe. But we're going to bring back Carly Johnston because she has been all over social media. And I don't know, would you trade Art for $1 million? That's a tough question,
I would
Carly.
trade myself for $1 million. Not to be a cop out, but I would trade myself for $1 million. Jeez. Get me off the show. Give me $1 million. I'll take it. As much as I love you guys.
She didn't say that. I promise everyone listening, she never said that. Carly, what do you have for us today?
All right. Since I am not being offered $1 million to get off this show, let's get into Let's Socialize. First up, Nico Goodrum posted a pretty cool story the other day on his Instagram. He said this is something, word to the wise that his dad told him. Make the best of the situation you are in, even if you're living in the basement. At least you can't fall out the window. Thank you, Mr. Goodrum. That is helpful for my Tuesday. Good way to start my week. Just always remember, grass is always greener on the other side. All right, and then next up for the Red Wings, we had, Kim Kardashian West and Kanye West. So we know Kanye West. This is a little odd, I know, right? We had Kanye West. We've seen him before in a winged wheel sweater, but his little mini-me, who Daniela told me is Saint West, was rocking a winged wheel sweater as well. We saw Kim Kardashian post a video of her son in a Detroit Red Wings jersey. Pretty cool to see people in Hollywood rocking the winged wheel on their chest. But that's all I have for now. Make sure you're submitting your questions, commenting, hashtag the word on Woodward, or I'll post an Instagram story and you guys can send in the questions there. Either way, send them in and we'll answer them later in the show.
Well, Carly, thank you. We even got a little bit of pop culture in today.
I know. Who am I? It's like news on the word on Woodward or something.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. Well, thank you, Carly. We will see you later in the show. You guys remember to send in your questions. We've still got a lot coming up in today's show. We're going to have Ted Kulfin of the Detroit News to talk some Red Wings hockey. And for the headliner, you will not want to miss this. AJ Hinch joins our one-on-one interview. It's really, really good. So you guys definitely want to be here for that. And right now, we're going to stick to the Tigers baseball and get into Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren. And joining us today is Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic, a returning Word on Woodward guest. Cody, thank you so much for joining us again. How have you been?
Hey, I've been doing good. How are you guys?
As good as we can be. Art's getting himself in the holiday spirit, as you can see, with his Christmas sweater.
I missed the memo. Yeah, I would have broke out my sweater too.
It's okay. I missed the memo. I'm wearing green, so maybe that counts a little bit. Oh, geez.
Do you have a cat on yours, Cody?
Wow. I no, I went with the reindeer, more of a Christmas animal,
Well,
more of a dog
well,
animal.
Do not tell a cat that they're not a Christmas animal. They will come at you.
Whatever that means. Anyway, Cody, let's get into some Major League Baseball news. Right now, we've got the Winter League meetings going on, which is the winter meetings, combining the two, same thing. But winter meetings are happening right now. Normally one of the biggest times of the year for baseball. GMs are meeting, they're making trades, they're picking players up, but it's all being done virtually this year. So what do you expect the differences to be, and how do you expect it to all play out?
Yeah, it's really weird this year. I think the winter meetings are probably going to be more symbolic than anything. It's still a time for, I think, the league to get some business done. There's still going to be the Rule 5 draft this week. But you don't have the whole baseball world convening on one hotel. It was scheduled to be at the Omni Hotel in Dallas pre-pandemic. That's not going to happen. So there's a totally different feel. We're seeing a little bit of action in the free agent market and a trade with the White Sox making some moves earlier today. But it doesn't seem like there's quite the same buzz. I think teams, if they're, they'll still be texting, calling agents, maybe doing some Zoom meetings. But I think everyone expects this to be a little bit more of a subdued time. Maybe we'll see the beginning of the free agent market starting to move, but especially for teams like the Tigers, teams that are probably going to wait things out, maybe be players, hopefully in kind of that middle range of the free agent market. There might not be a ton of action this week. That's a consequence of the fact that we don't know what budgets are going to be. We don't know how long the season's going to be. We don't know, how long or whether there will be fans in the stands. You combine that with the fact that all we have are these virtual winter meetings. So really, it's no different than any other day for a team interested in free agents right now. I think those things combine to kind of make this a strange, quiet week where you're keeping your ear to the ground, but I think most of the baseball world has a sense there's not going to be a ton going on.
Cody, I don't think it takes Sherlock Holmes to deduce this. The Tigers took a player off their 40-man roster, Anthony Castro, and they lost him in waivers to the Toronto Blue Jays. Yet they cleared a spot. The Rule 5 draft is coming up Thursday, the last day, I believe, of the winter meetings. I guess, I'm under the assumption that the Tigers, who picked third overall in the Rule 5 draft, might have a player or two lined up for that spot on the 40-man roster. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, usually you can tell what teams are going to do through their actions. When the Tigers place Anthony Castro on waivers, they open the 40-man spot, like you said. There's always a chance for more player movement. I think there are a couple other guys on this 40-man who might not be there come spring training, but the timing of this seems to signal they're clearing space, making way for a Rule 5 draft pick. The Rule 5 draft is always interesting. It's kind of a crapshoot. I'm not a huge Rule 5 fan, but teams tend to view it as kind of a low-risk proposition, right? You can select a player from another team. If there's a guy you like, you can take him. You do have to pay a little bit of a signing fee, but you take him. You don't necessarily have to keep him on the roster all year. The problem is if you want him in your organization, you have to carry him on the active roster or the IL for the whole season. But we saw a couple years ago with Reed Garrett. The Tigers carried him. He had a couple good outings early on, kind of lost his command. They sent him back to his old team. They cut those ties. It's also worth keeping in mind. I think some people like to be critical of Rule 5 picks, and that's fair because it's rare that they pan out. But we also aren't 100% sure what roster size is going to be this year. If we open the season again with 28-man rosters or possibly more, I think it makes total sense to take a risk, take a flyer on a player that your scouting department might like, and you can carry him. And we did see the Tigers have pretty good success with Victor Reyes a couple years ago. He wasn't an instant success. They kind of had to almost eat his roster spot when they carried him in 2018. But then you look at the way he played in 2020, he has a good chance to be a regular going forward. I think that's a good reminder that there can be value in the Rule 5 draft. Johan Santana was once a Rule 5 draft pick. I think it's a good place to kind of take a flyer. Often hard-throwing bullpen arms are guys who could go in the Rule 5. So I don't know exactly who the Tigers might have on their radar, but there's some good names out there. I mean, I think you look at Padres have an experienced pitcher, Luke Batcher, who's topping a lot of lists. I don't think he's the world's greatest talent, but he's a guy who isn't on the 40-man, could be major league ready. If you're a team like the Tigers trying to bolster your bullpen, maybe you take a shot on a guy like that. I actually want to give a quick plug for one of my high school teammates, Addison Russ. He's in the Yankees system, used to be in the Phillies system. There's a guy who's posted sub-2 ERAs in the Phillies system, was traded to the Yankees, supposedly did well at their alternate training site, a splitter guy. So he's just kind of one example of maybe there's some untapped value, some underlooked prospects that are waiting for their shot. Those are, again, the type of guys who tend to go in the Rule 5.
Now, Cody, thank you for sharing that with Daniela and me, but you do realize we have no say in the Rule 5 draft. Have you contacted Al Avila and AJ Hinch about this young man?
No. Well, I told David Chad about him last spring training. I don't know if he remembers, but maybe they should keep an ear to the ground. Yeah, Randall High School out of Amarillo, Texas. So
I love it.
Well,
thanks.
Yeah, really.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, I feel empowered in a strange way.
There you go.
Me too, Cody. Me too. Now, next question for you. You briefly touched on what you think the Tigers might do in free agency, but an interesting factor of what they could do is that Jordan Zimmerman's contract comes off the books for them this season. And in a normal season, in a normal year, they might be able to make a bigger splash, or they might want to make a bigger splash, but they really don't know what the budget's going to be for next season. So I just want you to talk about that situation. Is there a chance they sign a big name free agent, or are they really going to hold off?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and it's something every team in the league is facing. And so that's why I think, if anything, we're just going to see the player market kind of devalued. We're going to see some guys sign cheaper deals. maybe in January into February. We're not even sure when spring training is going to start. Because I think every team is weighing their budget, is probably going to be a little more hesitant to be super aggressive, especially in that middle part of the market. These top guys who are on the screen right now, I think they're contending teams that are going to vie for them. I don't know for sure, but I get the sense the Tigers are definitely going to be quiet this week. And look, they're probably not going to go after Trevor Bauer. They need a catcher, but I don't think they're quite in a position to splurge on JT Realmuto. At the very least, that would qualify as a major surprise. But you go further down the list, you start looking at Jock Peterson. You look at some of the guys who are non-tendered like Kyle Schwarber. These are other guys who are going to be in the mix to sign with contending teams. So I don't know that they're going to be Tigers, but I know that there's a pretty long list of these power-hitting corner outfield types who seem to make sense on the roster. And you wonder if this market, if you wait things out, you wait until January, you could see the Tigers make a couple nice additions at a little bit of a lower rate. I think that makes total sense. I think there's kind of an urge to criticize the Tigers if they don't sign someone this week. Well, I think if the rest of the league makes moves and the Tigers don't, that's a problem. But if the market stays relatively quiet, you could argue it's smart for the Tigers to wait it out, to be opportunistic. They need some middle infield help. They probably need a catcher. They need a corner infielder. They probably need a starting pitcher to bolster their depth. I think this team is going to make additions. We might just have to wait it out and see how things play out. So, big name, prize, Pudge Rodriguez type signing, maybe not this year. But I think the Tigers might just have a chance to be opportunistic, given the fact, just the market factors. They can get one of these, a couple of these mid-range free agents. That's what I would like to see. And they could be a little more competitive going into next year. Again, we might just have to wait a little longer to know how this is all going to pan out.
Cody, when you're hanging with your, with your fellow scribes, and you're just sitting there from different markets, just shooting the breeze, so to speak, and saying, well, maybe this happens, that happens. We've all been there, we've all done that kind of stuff. I'm kind of curious. I mean, the Tigers obviously have not been a very good elite ball club here the last couple of years, but are you finding that Detroit is suddenly maybe becoming a attractive destination, or are we still a year or two away from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what you're looking for. We've obviously seen a lot of momentum. I think the Tigers organization, it's a lot more fair to be positive about the direction right now than maybe it was this time a year ago, when you just look at the fact that guys like Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal have made their major league debuts. The Tigers hired A.J. Hinch and a very talented, progressive coaching staff. I think those are the things that add up that make you think, okay, could the Tigers be a little more aggressive in free agency this year? And I think in a normal season, minus the pandemic and the budget concerns, we would definitely see that. Now it's a little bit more up in the air. You could argue to some degree it's up to the Tigers themselves to make themselves that attractive destination by going out, being aggressive, maybe be willing to pay a little bit above market value. I'm not going to say that's going to happen. I think if you're looking to add someone on a long-term deal, you can sell, hey, we're going to be contending in a few years. I don't know that the Tigers are going to add someone on anything longer than 2 or 3 years, and for the most part, probably still just 1-year guys this year. But you can see things starting to turn a little bit, right? And I think the free agent market probably always going to be the final piece. I think Detroit's going to become a more attractive organization year by year here in the next 2 to 3 years. Year one right now, I don't know. Maybe what happens this offseason is kind of a barometer for what players think about the Tigers, in addition to, how aggressive the Tigers are willing to be.
Cody, you mentioned the new coaching staff, obviously starting with A.J. Hinch and bringing in Chris Fetter as the pitching coach, and a slew of other new coaches for the Tigers. But A.J. Hinch himself, he is expected to be a little bit more involved in some of the roster moves that the Tigers make. How involved do you expect him to be?
Yeah, that's another thing that's a little bit hard to know, and maybe we'll get a sense. Maybe when you guys talk to AJ later, when AJ meets with the media tomorrow via Zoom, I think Al Avila mentioned a lot during the search process that he wanted someone who could help evaluate players, evaluate talent. AJ Hinch has a front office background. He's worked in player development. At one point, it almost seemed like he was being groomed to be a general manager in the Diamondbacks organization. I think Al Avila is going to lean on AJ Hinch. I think AJ Hinch is going to have a little say in the construction of this roster. I don't think that means that Hinch is calling all the shots, but if I had to guess, I think he'll be a little more hands-on and given a little more say probably than Ron Gardenhire was. It seemed, at least from the outside, that Gardenhire kind of let the front office do its thing. And at that point in the rebuild, that also made sense. He was kind of there to manage and help develop, the players he was given. I think Hinch was hired in part to help piece together a roster that can be competitive here in a couple of years and put his own stamp on the organization a little bit. So again, it'll be interesting to see kind of what we hear and what the Tigers do in the coming weeks, maybe to shed a little more light on what exactly this dynamic will look like.
Cody, regardless of what they do in the Rule 5 draft, and I'm asking you to speculate here because rumor, innuendo, and speculation is what I thrive on, is that what position do you think if the Tigers will address first? Via trade, free agency? How do you think, if Al Avila and AJ Hinch are sitting around, having a couple of hot cocos over the holidays here, what position do you think that they're going to decide about? We really need to bring in this type of player, this type of position.
Yeah, I hear hot cocoa is Al's drink of choice for sure. No, again, it's all speculation this time of year, right? So it's kind of hard. I think a lot of it, it's almost like studying economics when you get into the free agent market. I think a lot of it depends on what other teams are doing. It doesn't seem like the Tigers are going to be the guys setting the price at various positions. Last year, you saw them get Austin Romine at catcher after several other catchers had already signed. It kind of became time to make a move, before all the catchers are gone. So I think that will again probably be the case this year. Again, I think like this corner outfield type guy that they may or may not add might end up be their most interesting signing, but I think that list of names is so long that's going to be the one that kind of drags out. I would think the pitching market is the market that's already kind of moving, that seems to have the most action. So if I had to guess, we might see the Tigers add a veteran starting pitcher of some sort first. It just seems like that's where the most dominoes are falling. Now, once teams start to make more moves on the outfield or maybe the infield, momentum gets going there. But right now, if I had to guess, I think a pitcher might be the first move, unless, maybe there's some guy out there that the Tigers already like and feel that, is willing to sign a little bit early. But yeah, I think pitching is the most active right now. So that would be my speculation.
Speculation
Beautiful.
that we're going to get a starting pitcher, and speculation that AJ Hinch's favorite drink is hot cocoa. Or maybe that's fact. I'm not sure, Cody.
As long as it's spiked.
I was going to say, it's got to be, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's true for everybody, though.
Hot
That's not just AJ.
cocoa on its own that's too much of a sugar buzz. You gotta amp it down just a little bit, so.
Maybe we're just talking about our favorite drinks now. I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're correct about that. Hey, Cody, one more thing. Keep sending players, Daniela and my way. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we can open up. We're definitely into it. We're more than willing to listen.
All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe run it by AJ, see what he thinks later on.
Oh, we will. You have our word.
Thank you for joining us again, Cody. It's always great to catch up with you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, Cody.
And a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat every week right here on The Word on Woodward. We'll get back into some Tigers baseball talk later in the show for the headliner when Art is joined by AJ Hinch. But for now, we're going to get back into some Red Wings hockey. It's time for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Ted Colfin of the Detroit News. Ted, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today.
It's been a while. How have you two been?
I've been good. I mean, Art's in his holiday spirit, as you can see.
He's festive.
December show. Yeah, he's happy.
You know, I have my Christmas sweater on. With
It
one
has
of the
a cat
cats.
on it. Oh my
The cat. I have another one that has a cat. Of course, Frank's in the background with his holiday double album classics
Oh,
here.
yeah, there
I mean,
you go.
I'm ready to go. I mean, let's talk. I mean, give me Silent Night or even Jingle Bell Rock. I'm ready. I'm all set.
That Frank Sinatra album might be better than both of those, though. Actually, it is better than both of those. I don't even have to debate that. So you've got the Christmas music.
Sinatra's cool. Sinatra is cool on a lot of different levels.
Yeah,
Very
he definitely is. I love Big Frank.
Big Frank.
The chairman of the board, the COB.
All right, you guys. Well, we brought Ted here to talk some hockey. As much as I love this Christmas discussion, we're going to talk some NHL. And the NHL and NHLPA has continued their discussions over the weekend, Ted. And what we do know is that they are making some progress, but they have yet to present anything to the Board of Governors. Just with your experience with the league, you've been covering the Wings for a long time. How do you see this playing out?
See, that's the thing, you guys. It's like I guess we talked about it right before we joined on the air. I'm cautiously optimistic. I really think there is going to be hockey this season, but just the fact that they really haven't gotten into the economics of everything kind of makes me a little, I don't know, like I said, cautious, suspicious. I mean, they've gotten all the easy and fun stuff out of the way, but there's a lot of really hard stuff to negotiate here that kind of makes you think, all right, I think we're going to see hockey, but I'm not absolutely 100% convinced yet.
Well, I think the good thing is that at least they're talking. I mean, so many times,
right. Oh, without a doubt.
Egos get bruised and they walk away from the table and then we don't hear anything. But at least they're starting to talk, which makes me hopeful. And the thing that I like, and I think one of the things that I think both sides agree on, is that they would like to see teams play in their home buildings. And I kind of like that concept, Ted, of, having a 2 or 3 game series against an opponent, much like they do in baseball.
Although the one thing about that thing, Art, just like I'm no COVID expert, but the way that this thing's exploding again in some of these major markets, you wonder if they'll even be allowed to play in these arenas. And then I know there's been some talk about maybe going back to that miniature hub or 4 or 5 hubs or whatnot. Maybe that's the way to do it. And if some of these markets, you can't play games. I mean, the numbers are skyrocketing again. And that's kind of another thing that kind of gives me a little bit of pause. It's like, man, are they going to be able to get through this thing? I hope so.
I think we're all hoping so. And they have made it very clear, the NHL, that's what I'm talking about. They have said that they want this to be the safest environment for their players. Gary Bettman was quoted saying they want to make sure that they do this right, so that way they'll be back to normal come the 21-22 season. So yes, we're cautiously optimistic. That's a great way to put it, Ted. But with that being said, when we finally do see the Red Wings on the ice, it's going to be a very different team than we saw last season. So how much do you believe the Red Wings have improved over this offseason?
Oh, they've improved substantially. I mean, just the overall talent level is much more NHL caliber. Let's face it. I mean, those 5 free agents they signed, I mean, it just makes them a lot more competitive team. The experience are there. Defensively, especially, just overall team defense is going to be better. And, as much as we all like Jimmy Howard, just the season he had last year, I mean, bringing in Greiss to essentially replace Howard, I mean, that should be an upgrade. They're a better team, Danielle. They really are. I mean, I wouldn't go carried away and think, well, maybe they'll start, buy your playoff tickets or anything like that. But they're going to be much, much more competitive. That's for sure.
When you look at this lineup and the things that they made, I think that, and I know you talked to Jeff Blashill, nice Q&A there, Teddy, and I know that I also talked to him last week on the Headliner. He has a lot to work with, but
I listened to that. That's good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Returning the compliment. Yeah, it was good.
Mutual admiration for society. I love it.
There you go. That's what it is. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, really, definitely. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, and Daniela, you're left out in the cold. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
But based on what Blashill had to say, it appears that he wants consistent scoring in his lines. He'd rather not break Larkin and Mantha and Bertuzzi up. I'm obsessed with who's going to be that second line center. I think Zadina's obviously on the wing, maybe not. But do you think Fabre has? I should be Robbie Fabre's agent, by the way. Do you think Fabre could be that second line center? Is that Nemetsikoff's job to lose?
It's a good. I mean, all those are good points, Art. I mean, we'll have to wait and see in training camp, I guess, if we get to watch training camp, I guess. All those people are definitely in the mix. I think it'd be really interesting to see Fabre as a second line center, and Nemetstikov is a good, solid choice there. I think he'd be. How about Phil Pula? I mean, maybe he has a good camp, and I think there's a lot of options for Jeff Blashill, and that's one of the good things about that. I mean, I don't think he had a heck of a lot of options last year to be really competitive and have a balanced, deep lineup. This time around, I mean, he's got definitely some decent, more than decent choices, and I think, that makes him a much more competitive hockey team.
Yeah, Jeff Blashill has to be pretty happy with what he has to work with this season. He's got to be excited heading into it. The other position that he should be excited about is goaltending. We've now got Thomas Greiss and Jonathan Bernier. How do you see that situation playing out, Ted? Do you see one of those guys being the number one, or is it a split 50-50 kind of thing?
I think it's kind of hockey cliche, but I really think he's going to play whoever's hot at the time. But I can see both those guys probably playing about the same amount of games. That's fair. Jonathan Bernier, you can make a strong case for him. He was one of their best players last season. He really was. I mean, his stats were fairly remarkable considering, the lack of team defense up front. I mean, I thought Bernier had a really solid year. And now you had Greiss, who, he's been a very, very capable NHL goaltender wherever he's been. I mean, you shouldn't have very many off nights in net. These two guys are really established, good, solid NHL goalies. So, yeah, that's definitely it could be a bright spot for this team.
Well, certainly, I think once the schedule comes out, we find how many games, how compressed it is. Are they playing 4 games in a week or 5 games? Right. I mean, they may have to go to almost a rotation in goalies just because there's going to be so many games compacted in there. But Ted, you bring up I think maybe the key player and the player that we forgot about because he's only played 8 games last year. If Danny DeKeyser's back holds up and he says he's healthy and I believe him, that could be a huge addition as well. That if Danny DeKeyser can play, you throw in Mark Stahl, Stetcher, Merrill, Hronek is another year into there. Then the Bulldog, Biega. I mean, the defensive core, I'm not going to say they're great. I'm not going to say that yet. No. They are significantly better, especially if DeKeyser comes back and is healthy and is able to play a full season.
100% I agree with you. I mean, not that Danny DeKeyser is all pro, all universe or anything, but you put him in there and he's a real solid NHL defenseman. And I mean, you saw how much of a loss that was last year. I mean, they couldn't compensate for that. Now this year, they're a little deeper, obviously, and you add him to the mix. I mean, it's not going to scare a ton of teams, but I mean, it's a very solid NHL defense and just makes him that much better. I mean, he's a guy who's played a lot of games, done it really well, does a lot of things well. And yeah, I mean, you add him if he's healthy, and which is still going to be a little bit of a question mark. I mean, he had major back surgery, herniated disc and all that. But if he's healthy, again, it just improves the roster significantly.
I want to ask you one more real quick question before we let you go. The potential for a Red Wings captain. Steve Yzerman has said that he wanted to name one before this season has started. And I asked Elaine St. James this same question, and I'm going to ask you. Is there any world where it's not Dylan Larkin?
I doubt it. I don't see any way. I mean, if they name one, he's going to be the one. It'll be interesting to see if they do it this season or not. I mean, I could definitely see maybe an argument where you want to just do it when things are back to normal, an 82-game season. But then again, it's like, why delay the obvious or delay it any further? I mean, he showed last year a lot of great leadership qualities. I think he'd be the natural pick, and I think he'd be a really good pick too.
I think so too, and I think everyone else in the Detroit
question.
fan base agrees with you. Art definitely agrees with you with all that. But
Well,
Ted, thank you so
I
much.
think I did.
The Red Wings are Dylan Larkin's team, Daniela, as you know.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. It's been a while since you've reminded me, so thank you for that, Art. Ted, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Hopefully next time we talk to you, we've got some good NHL news. Again, thank you for joining us. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another thank you to Ted for joining us for Downtown Hockeytown. Always great hearing from him. And now we're going to get in to the moment you've been waiting for. AJ Hinch joins Art Regner for the headliner.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. And let's bring in our guest, man that needs a bit of an introduction because it's AJ Hinch. You remember him as a big catcher for that 2003 Tigers team. How can we forget the 2003 Tigers? I don't think we can, but obviously just teasing them. The new manager of the Detroit Tigers, AJ Hinch, joins us. AJ, thank you so much.
You know, I've been trying to forget about that 2003 season for a long time, and now you keep bringing it up. So it was fun to be in Detroit. It was not fun to lose all those games.
Well, I'm a diehard, lifelong Tiger fan, obviously, my whole life. And I do have to say, though, and maybe I should thank you, that the 2003 Tigers really did a lot to cure my insomnia, because I would turn those games on, and before you know it, I was out. But aside from that, I mean, it was a long season. But let's go back. I mean, you're here now. It's obviously 2020. Have you seen kind of the city evolve a little bit? I don't know how much time. I know you spent some time, obviously, as an opposing manager and coach coming to the city. But where do you think Detroit was in 2003 and where it is today?
Well, I think it's a lot different. You know, I think one of the things you've seen so much change downtown, just the infrastructure, the area around the ballpark, the things that fans can do whenever they come to the game, even staying downtown. I think it's done remarkable fast forward to being a remarkable city. And I know a lot of people, specifically the Illich family's done for the city of Detroit. And now that extra piece is once you build up a really cool area to live or to come and dine or now come to the ballpark, we have to produce on the field. So, obviously as a visiting player, I've done it all. I've stayed downtown before. I've stayed out on the outskirts in Birmingham, and I'm seeing more and more activities being downtown and a lot more sales pitch downtown from the people that work for the Tigers to come and be a part of the downtown community and not just the outer suburbs.
Well, the reason I ask you is because I tease you about 2003, and but seriously, fans still showed up. I mean, the team wasn't good, 43-119. Okay, let's get the losses out of the way, most of American League history. But can you talk about the core and the passion of Tiger fans, because they've been around since 1901, obviously, charter member of the American League. So this is a long, storied, and proud franchise.
No question. And I think when you walk around the ballpark, you see a ton of the history that quite honestly, a lot of franchises don't have. I'm proud to be a Tiger. You wear that English D. It's the same uniform that was worn by stars of the past and Hall of Famers and people that have come through Detroit, and the fans have remained the same. This is a very generational based fan base. And I love that. When you go around Michigan, you see Tiger gear. You see people that are born and bred to cheer on the Tigers. And and as far as 2003 goes, if we hadn't experienced that as a franchise, we probably don't get to the next 10 years after that were remarkably successful. And I think that's what we need to understand and make sure our fan base knows, that we appreciate their support during those times so that we can enjoy the incredible run of success that the Tigers had after that. Similar now, when things have not been great over the last few years, we're hoping to set this organization up for a decade run or more of success. And that's a reward to the fans for being true to us throughout those lean years.
What's the most exciting aspect from a managerial perspective that obviously you have about this Tigers team, this current club, where the franchise is at? What are you most eager to get at?
Yeah, I want to get my hands on this pitching. You know, we've talked a lot about the minor league system, and there's going to be some position players that come that are really exciting, in Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green specifically. I know we talk about those guys a lot, but right now, what's in the big leagues, it's pretty fun to look at that starting rotation potential of a Mize and a Skubal and a Manning who's going to come up behind him. Faedo's a nice prospect that was a first-round pick. You know, combine that with some guys taking steps forward in some leadership roles in Matt Boyd and Spencer Turnbull. We need Michael Fulmer to get healthy. But when you start rattling off that pitching, the names of that pitching, and if you look over the course of the World Series contending teams over the last, you know, however long you want to look back, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the majority of them and almost all of them will have elite pitching. You have to get the pitching right if you want sustainable success. And now that you look at this team, when I'm on the outside coming in, you're like, hey, man, I love getting my hands on that pitching. It's why we hired Chris Fetter from the University of Michigan. It's why we kept Juan Nieves in the bullpen and his time as a pitching coach and a pitcher in the big leagues. That pitching is really going to set us up to be as successful as we can be, because, like, as you all know, as a baseball fan, you know, if you're down 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 after the first couple of innings, you can have the best offense in baseball, and you're simply not going to win as many games as you can when you have that shutdown pitching. We just watched the Tampa Bay Rays, you know, roll into the World Series and get to Game 6, ultimately lose, but they had a good, not great offense, but they had incredible pitching. And once you can put that all together, you can make a World Series run.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You would obviously bring up the pitching. I know that Faedo and Mize and Skubal and Manny, those four guys look at themselves as the four starters that the Atlanta Braves had, and I think Casey's from Arkansas or something. So that was a kind of the team he grew up. A couple of Michiganders on that starting staff, and Smoltz and Avery and you know, and Glavine and Maddox. I mean, is that lofty expectations, or are you glad that those guys look at the four of them and say, boy, look at the potential we have?
Yeah, well, that's some Hall of Famers on the Atlanta staff. So I want to give these kids a chance to be good and not have to be Hall of Famers. But it's important. I mean, I just came from Houston when we had Verlander and Cole and Charlie Morton, Lance McCullers, Dallas Keuchel. The starting rotation, I've always believed the starter sets the tone for the day. Mostly because at the top of the first or bottom of the first, like that momentum into the game is set, the tone is set by the starting pitcher. So, you know, for us to be successful, we got to get the pitching right. I think we're in a good position now where we have the ingredients. We're also going to take steps forward in how to maximize that pitching. But, you know, I don't want to say they have to be the Braves of yesteryear, or, you know, you look at what the Dodgers can do right now, what the Astros have done in the past. Cleveland in our own division has been the kind of the gold standard for developing pitching. I know that we need these guys to be good for us to be our best team. And certainly it's going to take more than that. They can be a great pitching staff. We need to surround them with offense, and we need to catch the ball better than the Tigers have in the last couple of years. It's going to take an all-encompassing team, but having those ingredients at the very beginning is a surefire reason to be excited.
Well, what I find interesting about it, obviously, when you were hired on the 30th of October, everyone in baseball said, "Well, you know, that's an A+ hire." You know, and I'm not saying it because you're a guest here today. I truly mean that. But then when you filled out your coaching staff, people were like, "Whoa!" I mean, the Tigers are getting it right. I mean, they've drafted really well. Their farm system has gone from, you know, I don't even think it was rated there for a number of years. I mean, you know, oh yeah, Detroit does have a farm system. I guess we better put them last. And now they're, you know, they're in the, you know, the top two in all of baseball, depending on what service you look at. You know, you mentioned Chris Fetter. I'm a big Michigan guy. I graduated from Michigan, you know, a northern team in the World Series. He's the pitching coach. How important is it to have a guy who understands all this metrics and is able to relate to these guys? Because in reality, he isn't that much older than the guys that he's going to be coaching.
No, and that's key. And I thought that was an advantage for him to be younger and more relatable to the pitching staff. And it was actually a feather in his cap that he could be similar age and different experiences, because he's been coaching 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds the last few years and having great success. We have a very young pitching staff. But there's some veteran guys that can learn something from him too. And I think the balance is what I'm after. I want the guy that can relate to the player as much as he can relate to the numbers. You can't kind of coach one way. You can't be one-sided. You can't simply just say these are the numbers and not apply them to what you do on the mound. The thing about analytics that people don't talk enough about is the pitching side is the side of the game that you can take the most advantage of the technology, the pitch sequencing, the pitch shaping, the numbers as everybody that spits out on TrackMan and Repsodo and these kind of fancy names of companies that can increase the likelihood of you being able to repeat your pitches. We have the ball in our hand whenever that pitcher's there, so he can create whatever spin on the ball, the carry on the ball, the extension down the line, all the stuff the numbers tell us. But you need a person that can relate that to each individual personality, somebody that can coach in different ways, somebody that can see the potential in what Joe Jimenez's pitches do, and maybe explain why he struggled over the last couple of years after having, this all-star tag put on him after making the all-star team in 2018. So that Chris Fetter is all-encompassing coach. He's not just a numbers guy. He's not just a player guy. He's found himself right in the perfect mix of both, and I think that's why he was the perfect hire for us.
Well, there's so many ways I want to go, AJ, and I know we're running out of time with you, but I really want to ask you this. I mean, I'm from the school where there was no such thing as analytics. I don't even think it was a word when I was growing up. When I look at it now and I see during the course of the game, and baseball's is a numbers game. I used to look at batting average or win-loss record or innings pitched and hits given up, and I used to look at those kind of statistics. During the course of a game, are numbers going through your head, or is there a gut level you go against the numbers, shall we say, or go against the metrics and just say, no, AJ feels this way, I'm going to keep so-and-so in the game, or I'm pinch hitting, or I know he's 0 for 100 against this guy, but he's going to get a hit right now. I mean, what goes through your mind? Because there's so much information to process.
Right. Now, you can become prisoner of your own numbers if you're not careful, and you have to – I always say you have to combine what you see with what you know. I mean, what you know is easy. I can look at a book. I can look at numbers. I can look at, a game plan. All that stuff is fine. What I see is on the field, and can that player produce what the expectation is for that situation? So it's fine to go by the numbers. I believe in sort of a soft focus on the numbers, but I also have to apply the real-time context on whether or not that player is in position to utilize those strengths. The case in point being, let's say that we have a hitter up to bat who doesn't hit the high fastball. In Scooble's pitching, he's got a big carry fastball that can get up above the zone, but he can't produce that today. The numbers are telling me that Scooble can throw high fastball to Mike Trout. The reality is I'm watching him pound the ball down in the zone and not being able to elevate the fastball today. Well, I have to make a decision whether he can face Trout that third time or that fourth time in the game based on whether he can produce what gets that guy out. That's just a small example of how I would take him out one game and maybe not take him out the other game, depending on his execution. That's player driven. That's person driven. That's not numbers driven. And on the flip side of that, you're going to see some things from me. Like, I don't love the intentional walk. I don't love the sack bunt that much, but I'm going to like safety squeeze. So if I don't like the bunt, but I like the safety squeeze, why? Well, the reason is one produces a run and one doesn't. And so there's situations like that I'm a little bit more new school in how I manage. But I've got some old school roots that have been tried and true and that have stood the test of time. And the right blend is what I'm after, and not simply one guy or the other.
I have to jump all over, but I know the winter meetings are coming up. There's still free agency, Rule 5 guys, all kinds of things happening. What's this next couple of weeks leading up to the holidays going to be like for you?
Yeah, pretty busy. This is a couple of weeks where we need to really get ourselves in position to determine what our team is. On the free agency side, no matter what I've been in the game, whether it's been in the front office, a manager, a player, December and January is kind of like moving months. Like, you're going to find out where these players are going to play. They're all going to want to find a home. They all want really good deals in December. And then January, the teams seem to try to jockey for position on who's going to sign. The winter meetings are going on virtually this year, so we have some meetings, some manager stuff, some instant replay stuff, and then most importantly for the Tigers, I'm having different meetings with different departments within the organization. We're having an infield meeting tomorrow. We're having a pitching meeting next week. We're going to have an offensive meeting the week after that, where these are 2, 3, 4, 5-hour Zoom calls that are trying to get the organization on the same page for what we're going to do in the big league level, the language we're going to use, the positioning, the pitching philosophy, the hitting philosophy, so that when we hit the ground running, whenever it is, hopefully we have a normal spring training, that we're going to be able to have an organization that's taken a step forward, being cohesive, as opposed to just having a new manager at the major league level, but doing the same things over and over again in the minors.
Well, when you do hit the field as Tigers manager, you're going to be wearing number 14. How did that come about?
Well, 14 for me was my number in Houston as a manager. And the way that I got it there was I was going off. I was on the field. I wasn't good enough to have my number. I wasn't going to be number 7, number 23, number 20, number whatever. So when I became a manager, I asked my daughters, who were really young at the time, I think they were like 10 and 8 or 11 and 9, what number looked the best with my name over it, or last name over it. And so they drew up numbers that were available in Houston. They loved 7, 14, and 21. So they love those three, 7, 14, 21. They're all multiples, but 7 was taken, Craig Biggio, and 21 was not available. So I went to 14. We had pretty good success. The girls like it. So when I got to Detroit, same theory applied. They wanted me to stay with 14. Now, Christian Stewart had it the last couple of years, but I'll have to do something nice for him since manager came in the organization and took his number.
Well, I know you've mentioned the Old English D. The holidays are coming up. I mean, have you loaded up on, is this going to be a Tiger gear, Tiger swag Christmas for everybody that you know? Presents that you're going to distribute? Is everybody getting like Tom Selleck autographed Tiger caps or something?
Pretty much. I mean, Jim Schmeichel down in the clubhouse did an unbelievable job of loading me up with some Tiger gear. So I'm wearing that proudly and also kind of distributing it out to our family. My wife put the first decoration on our Christmas tree this year was a tiger decoration that my wife bought right after I got the job. So we'll be sporting the English D down here in Texas for the time for our holidays until we can wear the real thing when season starts.
AJ Hinch, thanks for joining us on the Headliner. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I still have a lot of questions to ask you, so we'll have to have you on.
I'm going to be here a long time. We can do this again.
Oh, we definitely will. Trust me. I'm going to hold you to that. AJ, best of luck and everything. Have a happy holiday. We really appreciate your time.
You got it.
That'll do it for this edition of the Headliner presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it's available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art. It was great to hear from new Tigers manager AJ Hinch, but I do have to say, I said this on last week's show, I'm in need of some Tigers gear. So AJ, if you're listening, send one of those Christmas presents my way. Now, guys, we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And you know that we're going to bring in Carly Johnston, who has been all over social media. And you guys, Carly has had a very tough job today because she has a broken phone. So she's been doing and working to get all of the social media posts together on the same screen. So Carly, it sounds a lot. It's hard. Let me tell you, Art, you might not understand it, but it's really hard.
She has a broken thumb?
Broken thumb? I can't even use the touch screen. And it's on my alarm's been going off since 8:30 a.m. and I can't turn it off. So if you guys hear some alarm going off, it's my phone. Anyway.
Well, I swear, honest to God, I thought Daniela said you have a broken thumb.
That would make it
difficult. Thumbs are still good to go, but not my phone.
Well, that's good because, without a thumb, I don't even think we're human, I mean, that's a tough, that would be a tough digit to lose.
I know I do still have opposable thumbs, but let's get into the question we have. I know you're going to love this one because we had someone special ask me a question. Anthony Mantha, he wanted to know, when are we starting? So hoping it's January 13th as everyone's projecting, but who knows these days? But, even the players don't know, you guys. People keep asking me, when is the NHL season going to start? I don't know. Anthony Mantha doesn't even know. But fingers crossed, you guys. January 13th, right?
Well, according to reports, it is January 13th. I just have to say this to the BT Express. Hopefully, you've already started. Yeah, and I'm sure you have. I know that the last time we talked to the BT Express when he signed his contract, you guys were on the call. I said he looked mammoth. I thought, I don't know if it was what he was wearing or the angle he was at, but he looked gigantic. He just looked like a huge behemoth of a man. I still think he's pushing 250. He says he's going to be like 235. So I can't wait to see him. I think it's going to be the 13th if everything holds true. Unfortunately, reports are now circulating that, COVID-19 starting to hit the World Junior Tournament a little bit here. So teams are, coaches and things like that. We'll get into that next show. But I guess what I'm saying is that, we're still in a precarious situation. I really hope it is the 13th. I know that Big Tony is on the ice and he's doing his thing. If you're a Red Wing player, I mean, we're chomping at the bit, for hockey to start, even though the Tigers, that was great. That 58 game schedule was a godsend for us over the summer. But now looking at hockey, the Red Wings have been off the ice it seems like forever, but it's getting close to a year now. I know they're ready. I hope that, everything holds true, that the virus can be, contained and, the numbers start going down instead of spiking up, and that they're able to hit the ice that week between Christmas and New Year's, which is going to be a fun week for us, and, back down and maybe they'll allow us in the Belfour Center. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Hopefully it'll happen. I'm shooting. So BT, Big Tony, from me to you, my friend, January 13th, I'm going to stick to it.
There we go. I think we're all going to be entering the arena after this break with the little extra LBs added on. But question number 2, I'm going to let Yella take this one because, good Lord, Art, she hasn't gotten a word in edgewise today. All right, so second question. This is a good one. You know what? Maybe it isn't so specific to Red Wings or Tigers, but I always like these questions. I like when people ask them. Who's been your favorite interview so far? We'll stick it to the word on Woodward.
Well, every single one that I've done without Art. I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
I'm just
Whoa. That's a little harsh. First you want me traded or something or off the show. No, you know what? I'm going to take it back. Even if the Red Wings are practicing between Christmas and New Year's, you get it off, Daniela. You need a timeout. You need a little bit of a break.
Oh, I'm just kidding. But it does work out to the fact that one of my favorite interviews, because we've had Ron Gardenhire on the show twice, and the one that I really enjoyed was the one when Carol joined me and you had a power outage, which was just an unfortunate circumstance. It was not that I may have cut your power line, but anyway, it was an unfortunate circumstance.
Those wires in the back.
Really, it was only about 30 houses too. It was just the immediate neighborhood, like a telephone pole or something fell down, and that was it. I mean, but the only good thing about that is I did not get to see the 19-1 loss or whatever it was, the Brewers and the Tigers. That was that afternoon is when that happened. So and
that is
Cody
my
Stavenhagen too.
That is my favorite, the Ron and Carol Gardenhire interview. But Art, you have had some great headliners. AJ Hinch was great today. I remember when Kirk Gibson was on, I really enjoyed that one. So there's been a few that are definitely, they get everyone gets a gold star, but those get 2 gold stars.
Yeah, love it. All right. I know you wanted to say something, but we're going to get to the third point.
Just mumble.
I'm zipping it. I've zipped it.
All right. So, okay. You know what? You can say a name. That's all. You don't give us a reason. Just give us a name.
I thought Matthew Boyd was good. And, of course, Casey Arthur Mize.
Love it. All right. Good job, Art. Pat on the back for that answer. All right. Third point we have. Wait, Art, you know the Elf on a Shelf, right? I think I'm saying that right. It's like Christmas. So what happens is that what happens I don't even know how to explain it. So parents will get this little elf, and it's basically about, okay, so this elf will, be coming back and forth from the North Pole, reporting to Santa Claus about how the kids are doing. And then, so the parent every night has to move the elf. Anyway, okay, this is pointless, but it rhymes. Elf on the Shelf, okay? So there's a trend going around. Where they're putting people or things I can't even explain this, on things that rhyme. All right, can we just see the graphics so I can stop talking about it?
Yeah. Okay, Carly, are you sure you don't have a broken thumb?
But the Tigers posted a picture with Jamer Candelario on Sandy from SpongeBob. Do you get it? So can you tell me what you think this is called? Okay, well, now it's a dead giveaway in the comments. I'm ruining this whole segment right now. It's Candy on Sandy. All right, let's see the second graphic. Maybe then we won't have the answers in the comments.
Okay, this is how we're going to do this, right? It's paws on a clause. Get it?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Art is so far removed from this.
This reminds me of the conversation I had a couple summers ago when they were trying to explain what an influencer was on social media. I was lost. I had no concept at all. I'm kind of back in that same boat. My head's spinning right now, but I love the segment though, Carly.
For you. I tried. I really tried this time. But maybe we can see the rest of the slides. Maybe we could just see it for the fans at home. Maybe they get it. Because my explaining was horrible, but that's Buck in a truck. Buck Farmer in a truck.
Great.
First of all, I thought it was Spencer Turnbull, and I thought it was Turning the Corner.
Oh, no, Art. It's way more simple than you're making it.
Yeah, I'm completely lost.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to get this one.
All right.
Could you possibly try and guess it?
Wow. Now I'm trying to think as simple as possible. I would say Freezing Joe, but I have no idea.
Rhyme.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm about to start crying.
Okay, let's see.
Explaining it.
Snow Joe. Snow Joe Globe. I have no idea. I really don't. I mean,
I'll take it.
My cheeks.
I'm going to say.
I'm like sweating.
I really, all I can think of now is Snow Joe, and I know that makes no sense.
We'll go with it. Sure. Daniela, you want to take a stab at it?
Joe in the snow.
There we go. But
Joe in the snow? Who came up with this? This is really a thing. Yeah,
I'm a goose.
I'm going to sound like like my parents. I'm telling you right now, the VCR is never going to catch on. I mean, I can't believe somebody came out. I don't get it. I mean, Alf on the Shelf. So what we're doing is, I thought you hide elf. You have the elf on the shelf. The kids find him. Then the next day, the elf is someplace else in the house, and you find him, right? Okay, how does that translate to Joe in the snow and Buck in a truck? I mean, I'm just trying to, I'm not making that connection. I am not making that connection. First of all, George Farmer, I apologize for calling you Spencer Turnbull, but I thought Turning the Corner in a peaceful way.
Oh no, yeah, I like that FaceTime, but I think I'm just gonna wrap this up and hand it off to Daniela.
No, I'm giving one more stab at this really quick. Art, it's just a funny social media trend. Like, people started saying, Oh, elf on a shelf. Well, how about a
That's
buck
right.
in a shelf or a candy on candy? They were just
Oh,
having
they've
fun.
taken right. They've expounded. They've kind of progressed the idea. Elf on the
Right.
Shelf is yesterday's news. Now we have to come up with something different.
Right.
Like
Art in a
art on
cart,
cart.
you know?
Okay,
Maybe.
Larkin in a sea, something like that. That
Yes.
doesn't really
Oh.
rhyme though.
Sure. Yeah. A little bit.
How about just stating the obvious? Let's play a game like that. State the obvious.
Maybe next time.
Larkin with the C, very obvious.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I
Well,
don't know what's this segment, but again, Daniela, please just put us out of our misery.
Great job as always, Carly. Seriously, really good.
you.
Really enjoyed it.
even without
That
your
was
thumb,
fun.
great work.
Sorry to hear about your thumb.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. A big thank you to AAA for presenting Let's Socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Well, you guys, I hope you thought it was funnier than Art did, because I saw that post and I thought it was hilarious. So hopefully you guys caught on a little quicker than Art did. But we have come to the end of another edition of The Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of The Word on Woodward every Tuesday and Thursday starting at noon. If you missed any of the action today or in our past shows, make sure you check out the Word on Woodward YouTube page. You can catch all of our old interviews on there, and including the ones from today. You can also listen to the show as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. So make sure you catch up if you haven't missed anything. We'll be back on Thursday with all of your Red Wings and Tigers news. So again, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you Thursday at noon.